I welcome you today to Day 4 of the Breaking the Silence Summit, Healing Childhood Sexual Trauma. I'm your host, Janine Naus. It's a pleasure having you join us in this summit today. I'm here with a great guest, and I look forward to introducing you to. Her name is Dr. Michelle Gamble, and she is in Tallahassee, Florida. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Dr. Gamble's work, she's an integrated wellness mentor and trauma experiential alchemist. She is also a certified heart math provider, and she's been a natural health care provider for over 15 years. She offers emotional healing for your body, mind, and heart. She calls the Heartsong system. Pretty remarkable, right? Today's topic is Me Too, Now What? Dr. Gamble and I were speaking a little earlier, and she shared the integrative wellness approach is to pull together ancient healing techniques of people to heal from trauma combined with modern evidence-based research. The result is that she saw profound shifts in their emotional being as they shifted from reliving the past to healing childhood ancestral trauma so they can increase resilience, vitality, and feel better more often. Dr. Gamble has extensive experience working with people who experience trauma. Her Heartsong system has proven itself to be a powerful tool for releasing emotional trauma so that people can start living their lives free from reliving the past. And Dr. Gamble has a unique ability to help others heal emotionally from trauma. I look forward to hearing more about how she heals people from trauma, and I'm excited to have Dr. Gamble join us. Dr. Gamble, welcome to Breaking the Silence Summit. It's great to have you here with us today to share how your Heartsong system works and the successes of it. Dr. Gamble, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. And that was a phenomenal introduction. My intention is to live up to that introduction. It is so phenomenal.
I see. I really do love what you do, and that you're helping people with emotional healing. You have the ability to bring people to what they desire in life, and you help bring happiness and joy to one's life. So Dr. Gamble, why does what you do work?
Well, first I want to go back and really talk about what I mean and what I do as a mentor. The reality is that I don't heal anyone. I am privileged to be able to teach and to guide people as they come to the realization that these divine powers that we have within our being and that everyone is blessed with, we are programmed to heal. And I basically facilitate people in removing the obstacles, removing the obstructions, and having a deeper understanding of that innate natural healing ability. Now, why what I do works is simply because of that reason, which is that Mother Nature always wants us to heal. The universe wants us to heal. The universe does not want us to stay broken. And the reason why a lot of people are not experiencing healing at this point in time is because our conventional approaches to trauma are failing for 4 main reasons. The first one is that trauma is illogical, meaning that you cannot approach trauma in a logical way of speaking, because the fact that we hold on to trauma is contrary to everything that we understand regarding our innate desire to preserve ourselves, right? Why would anyone want to continue to relive and replicate the experience of being wounded? It's illogical. And yet we have a society of millions of people that go around each day continuously reliving this trauma, what I term death by a million cuts. It's one thing if we go through an event and we experience the damage within that set of circumstances, and it's limited to that time period, right? However, what happens in trauma is that that shock continues to reverberate in the being over and over and over again through time, which is illogical. You would think that it would be limited to just that time period. The second reason why conventional approaches are failing is because they're trying to, quote unquote, attack the trauma. They're engaging in direct approaches. Again, we cannot directly deal with trauma. In fact, most spiritual practices talk about the need to build our persons in a different way and never to directly approach the quote unquote evil or the quote unquote wound or the quote unquote trauma. Because when you directly engage with the trauma and that experience of the trauma, you're actually giving it more life because you're giving it more of your energy. The third reason is that we live in a society where our paradigm of our identity is based on a falsehood. We live in a society where we think that what we have experienced becomes who we are. And the challenge that I give to most of the people that I deal with and everyone that I deal with regarding trauma is that we now need to separate ourselves and have an understanding of the difference between a stressor or an experience and the way in which we respond. And what determines that gap is the understanding that we are essentially divine beings that have a choice in how we respond to any given set of circumstances. And even though those circumstances may be dire, they do not necessitate that we give a certain response. We have the ability to choose and to change the way in which we respond. Subsequently, the way in which we responded to a set of circumstances when we were children can be transformed, and we can teach ourselves a new modality of response as we become older. And the last reason why conventional approaches are failing is because these are approaches that emphasize physical and mental tools for emotional and spiritual wounds. Trauma that we are talking about today is a trauma that goes deep, that surpasses the physical act. Because the physical broken bones, the physical bruises, those can heal very easily, right? And yet the emotional and spiritual wounds and the mental wounds, they continue to live on. Now, the reason why this is so important to me, why I do what I do, is because I myself experienced sexual trauma during my childhood. Now, the reason why I don't say that I'm a survivor or even that I'm a victor is because I don't define myself by my experience. What I share with you instead is simply that I experienced those things. And through the process that I'm going to share with you today, I've been able to separate myself from the experience to the point where now I can recount the experience, I can talk about the experience, and there's no emotional tug. There's no mental tug. There's no spiritual anchor that is linking me to that experience. It's simply as if I were explaining how to do an addition problem. That is when you know that you have healed from your trauma, when you can recount the story and it's just like talking about the dog walking down the street.
Wow, that's absolutely just a wonderful explanation of the four um, areas as far as why traditional um, medicine, I guess, is that what you called that? It does not really work. And your personal story, bringing light and how the profound shifts that can happen with this Heartsong system that you have. So, is there scientific research to back up what you're saying, Dr. Gamble?
Sure. You know, when we look at even just recent events with what we term the Me Too movement, we are astounded at the numbers of people that not only come forward to say, this has happened to me. More importantly, what I listen for in those stories is how many of those people are emotionally, mentally, spiritually still anchored to that experience. And what I mean is that you can still hear the heaviness as they are recounting these stories, which tells me that numerous people, millions of people, are still receiving the reverberative effects of this trauma. We also had a recent study that came out that we refer to as the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Events, which talked to us about not only the fact that people have had these experiences in childhood, but that these experiences have now become concretized within the physical, where it has increased their risks of taking on a chronic illness. Again, if that is leading into an increased risk for a chronic illness, then that means that that trauma has not healed, right?
True.
And then the other thing to take into consideration is that the conventional approach has been talk therapy, right? Whether it be from a psychiatrist or psychologist. And then the other conventional approach is with medication, psychotropics. More and more research comes out telling us that the psychotropic approach is not only not working, but has detrimental effects in terms of long-term usage. Yes, when somebody is in the process of possibly endangering him or herself, we need to intervene with medication. These medications, however, were intended for short-term uses to get people off the edge, literally and figuratively. They were never intended for long-time application to simply manage the symptomology. We need to go deeper to looking at how we can help people to heal. And that healing is not through medications. Medications have never healed anyone of any type of trauma, has never healed anyone of anxiety or any other emotional imbalances. Medications simply manage the symptoms. And as soon as you come off the medication, those symptoms come right back, and with a vengeance, actually. And then the other part is quote unquote talk therapy. And I know that you have experienced many people who have been in therapy for 10, 20, 30, maybe even longer. And they're still reliving the same story. They're still being affected by that same trauma. It is still seeping into their lives like tentacles and affecting and causing disruption in their relationships, in their personal health, and in their environment. Now, when we look at other research in terms of why this particular approach works, it's because of something that scientists have discovered, which is called the amygdala hijack. The amygdala is a part of the brain that actually controls our emotional memories. The challenge with the amygdala is that it stores these memories, and that once it stores these memories, it enables us to constantly trigger the looping and the resuscitation of those memories over and over and over again. While it's doing that, it prevents the proper functioning of what we call the cerebral cortex. It prevents executive functioning. That's why I said that this whole idea of being able to talk our way out of trauma is very limited, because the reality is while you're looping your trauma, you're not implementing your executive function. You're not going through the logic. So yes, as you're sitting there and you're talking about it with someone, you can rationally intellectualize, yes, this happened to me. Yes, it wasn't about me. No, I am not my experience. I am a great person. I am a beautiful person. No, I'm not going to give that power to that person. So yeah, when you're sitting down there and you're cool, calm, and collected, you can go through all of that logic, right? However, when someone triggers the memory by doing something similar, maybe like the woman that testified in the Supreme Court hearing, maybe you hear someone laugh that sounds just like the laugh that occurred during that event, and that's the trigger. Bam, the amygdala hijack occurs. You start to feel your heart pounding. You start to feel your legs get weak. You start to feel yourself transported back in time to that experience. It's a knee-jerk reaction, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are. The woman who testified is a brilliant woman, a doctorate degree in psychology, no less. So this is not about intelligence. This is not about rationalization. This is not about logic. The amygdala hijack ensures that all of that goes out the window. For those of you who are interested in learning more about the amygdala hijack, it's based on research that has been done by the HeartMath Institute that has been in existence for over 25 years, doing tremendous research and creating programs to helping people to deal with their trauma. Specifically, the HeartMath Institute has a contract with our Department of Defense where they work with veterans, helping them to diffuse their PTSD. So that's why I'm saying this is research-based approach that we're talking about.
Wow, that's such a fabulous explanation in terms of the scientific research that backs this up. So, Dr. Gamble, that really people can heal from childhood sexual trauma, correct?
Yes, definitely. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, for people, is there more that you want to share about the heart math and and kind of an explanation a little bit about your system, the Heartsong system?
Wonderful. Actually, HeartMath and Heartsong go together. They're this beautiful pair. I view HeartMath as being the prerequisite course for my students, actually, because HeartMath is phenomenal in giving people the tools and techniques to be able to stop the hijack from occurring. You know what I said? When you hear that laugh, or you may smell a certain smell and it triggers a certain memory that takes you back to that traumatic experience, how do you stop yourself from having the same deleterious response where your heart is racing, your knees go weak, you can't think, everything starts to go funky with you, right? That is where HeartMath comes in, where we teach a variety of different techniques to help us to put a stop, to put a plug in the bathroom drain that's taking your energy, that's taking your focus, that's taking away your life in reality. So that is where HeartMath really, really shines, to help people to at least stop the violence, to stop the reliving of that trauma, to stop the death by a million cuts. Then where Heartsong picks up is that now that you've stopped, now what? How do we actually start to heal so that those triggers don't even have a bleep on our radar anymore? And this is where we start to pull in the wisdom of the ancients, what I call the science of holy ritual therapy. Now, this is reminiscent of what we call the divine trinity, where you have the mind, and the mind is that masculine energy that initiates the decision, where you put forth your will. We often refer to what we call willpower. What many people don't realize is that willpower is not one thing. Willpower is actually a beautiful synergistic combination of two realities, which is the will and the power. So the mind is able to initiate the decision to say, I want something different for my life. If I'm feeling fear, I want to feel courage. That's the mind making a decision that it wants something different. The mind says, I want to be in touch with my divine self. I am not a wounded child. I'm a whole person. The mind makes that decision that this is what it wants. That's the will that it's putting into the universe. Then the heart comes in and it generates the emotive power. Because it's one thing to say, I want to do this. It's another thing to be able to have the power to be able to do it, right? So the heart, and this is the piece that a lot of psychology is missing out on. You have to put your heart in it. You have to be able to generate that emotional powerhouse within your being to create a new pathway. Unfortunately, in our society, we don't really have what I call an emotional vocabulary. We tend to focus on depleting emotions. We can become angry like that. We can become erratic like that. We can become sad like that. We can become jealous like that. We can become impatient like that. So we are very, very skilled when it comes to the depleting emotions. However, when you ask someone, can you easily switch into joy? Can you just become joyous like that? Can you become loving like that? Can you become faithful like that? Can you become courageous like that? Most people can't, because we have not been taught that these are emotions that we can choose to activate within our persons at any given point in time. So we take the mind that initiates the decision to change and to create a new pathway within the brain, within the body, within the heart, within the spirit. We take the heart that's generating the energy through emotions. So we teach people how to generate new, renewing emotions, and we pull those together in this beautiful soup with the third aspect of the Trinity, which is the senses. Because the senses are able to help you to integrate everything physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, as well as the left and right hemispheres of the brain, because they bypass the cerebral cortex. These senses are the use of what we call rhythmic harmonics, which is sounds. You know, we've all heard the saying, music soothes the savage beast. There are sounds and melodies and harmonics that can help us to access different emotional centers in our being. There are aromas, essential oils that we can use to resuscitate these different centers in our being. If we want to be courageous, we can use things like pine and cedar to bring forth that feeling of courage. If we want to be devoted and humble, we can use things like jasmine to help us to reactivate that motherly feeling, that maternal feeling. We can also integrate the sense of colors and visions to program ourselves to have a different response to the triggers. We can use tender touches, different access points, because every emotion has a center in the body. A lot of times we refer to anger as residing within the liver and things of that nature. And then last but not least, there are tastes and foods that help to strengthen and bring forth emotional healing in the different centers of our being. So when we pull all of those different therapeutic modalities together, we create a holy ritual that we are able to do over and over and over again. And that holy ritual is what creates a new pathway, creates a new baseline of response to triggers. In essence, that gives birth to a new you so that you can heal. The process of releasing and decreasing helps us to increase our ability to actualize our divine powers of healing.
That is just absolutely phenomenal. The information you shared. Wow, it speaks to me being somebody who experienced childhood sexual trauma myself, and I'm sure our audience as well. So, Dr. Gamble, for people who are listening today, what do they need to do to experience all that we are talking about?
You know, the first step is really, I call it a three-tiered program, where the first step is to acknowledge, the second step is to accept, and the third most challenging step is to appreciate. So the first step is to acknowledge what are the varying components that enable the trauma to stay. And sometimes what enables the trauma to stay is because we don't have really and truly enough physical energy to do the healing. We may be nutritionally deficient and therefore more susceptible to emotional responses. We may have certain what we call genetic SNPs that predispose us to anxiety. And so we have to put in the proper support for our neurological system, for our immunological system to deal with those sets of circumstances. And then there may be certain mental gremlins, certain thought patterns that keep on looping that we have lost track of, and they've become one with our being simply because we've had them for so long, and we need to be able to extract those and be able to see them separately. There may be certain aspects of our being which we've lost a sense of purpose. We've lost a sense of connectivity to our divine purpose, our spiritual connection with our world. There may be certain emotional components to that trauma. What are the emotions, the specific emotions that we individually correlate to that experience? Two people can have the same experience, and yet it elicits a different emotional body within those two people. Subsequently, this first step is about identifying what are the root causes of why an individual is not healing. And that is why it gives me extreme pleasure to make that offer to you all, to engage with me in a personal consultation, a complimentary consultation that I am offering to you as a participant in this summit, to talk with me. Together we can sit down and look at what your experience has been, to identify two of the main areas, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, that really are heightened in your need for healing. What are the two main areas that you need to focus on? So we're going to be able to help you to identify two of those areas, and I'm going to give you strategies to help you to heal in those areas that are specifically identified for your person.
Wow, that sounds just fabulous and very helpful for anybody in our audience who would like to do that and and receive such benefits from what it is that you've been sharing. Dr. Gamble, how can people work with you to gain more information and understanding about the steps they would take?
Well, Janine, there are many ways that you can contact me. Number one, you can pick up a phone. Hey guys, 850-725-8322. Or I invite you to go to my website, sankofahealing.com. And I know Janine is including that link, but I'm going to say it for you guys. www.sankofa, S as in Sam, A, N as in Nancy, K-O, F as in Frank, A, sankofahealing.com. And on the website, not only will you be able to contact me, but you can also get more information about Heartsong. You can even experiment and listen to some of the healing harmonics. They're free at the bottom of the Heartsong page. You can download a free blueprint. So several different things that you can do on that website. You can also learn more about working with me in a retreat capacity. where it's very intensive, or you can log into becoming a part of one of our 30-day programs, which is the Heartsong program that we deliver virtually through the internet in a variety of different modalities, including an online classroom, as well as recordings that go out each day and things of that nature.
Great, great. Thank you then.
Thank
So,
you.
Dr. Gamble, I want to thank you for joining us, and it's always a pleasure to connect with you. And thank you for being with us today. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Janine.
All righty. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.